Welcome to a special advertising edition of the Stopping to Think podcast. I'm your host, Will Dole. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy, you can rate and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And the podcast is brought to you today by the release of a brief book on marriage entitled A Healthy Marriage, A Biblical Introduction. This is a short book that is releasing today on Amazon. There will be a link in the show notes, and it's essentially it's a little bit more than this, but it's essentially just the edited marriage series that I preached about a year and a half ago at our church, and I felt like it was worth putting together into book form to give it a little bit more durability, if you will, to be able to pass out to folks in the church, or if you're interested, here it is online for you to purchase. It's built around, again, those 6 messages that I preached, and it walks through these areas. Begins with the necessity of roles in marriage and the importance of understanding that the biblical instruction on marriage largely centers on those roles. And then there are, in turn, chapters on the role of the wife and then the role of the husband, which is the opposite of how a lot of evangelical marriage books move, but it's actually the direction that the New Testament authors take. They start with the role of the wife and then they move to the role of the husband. And so that's the direction I took when I preached through it. Covers 2 particular pressure points that most marriages, all marriages really face, specifically being communication and sex, and then concludes the body of the text with a meditation on the glorious reality to which marriage is meant to point. And that is the relationship between Jesus Christ and his church. So that's the core of it. There are some appendices with some recommended reading and a couple of other sermons that flesh out some of the details of what marriage, the role marriage plays in humanity, in the creation story, and how relationships of authority in general ought to work in the Christian life. How we as Christians ought to think about living under authority and being in positions of authority, which have pretty direct relevance to marriage. So, yeah, that's the short pitch. Sub 3 minutes here. That's what the book is about. And if that sounds interesting to you, well, you can just trickle on over to Amazon from here and purchase. There's a Kindle version, there's a paperback, and there is a hardback edition. So thank you for this one bit of advertising that I'll put into the podcast feed this year. This has been the Stopping to Think podcast, introducing you to the book A Healthy Marriage. Maybe you could purchase it in time for Valentine's Day. Thanks for listening.